Welcome to the Stratholme in-depth dungeon guide for both Horde and Alliance. Stratholme consists of two wings, living and undead. This video will include a guide for the living section and will be timestamped accordingly below, along with complex trash pulls, quests, and bosses and their according loot drops. If you're here for the undead section or how to obtain the key, a link to that video can be found in the description once it's complete. Stratholme was once one of the Human Kingdom's largest cities and was the birth site to the Silverhand Knights. Unfortunately for its citizens, Mal'Ganis chose it as the site for the Plague of Undeath and infected the populace with infected grains. Arthas, on his quest to cleanse the Scourge, marched to what is now the northwest part of the eastern Plaguelands and slaughtered the denizens of Stratholme, setting the city ablaze, with fires still raging. Even so, the Scarlet Crusade has managed to make a holdout inside the city, lashing out at both the living and undead in their fanatical fury. The streets of Stratholme are littered with undead. As such, I would highly recommend bringing paladins or priests into the group. Classes with strong area of effect abilities are also highly recommended here. Ideally, you'll want any tank, a priest to heal, a mage, warrior, and any other damage dealer, but keep your group open as there are quite a few best in slot items in this dungeon. The ideal level range is 57 to 60, but you can enter as early as level 45 if you so desire. If you plan on clearing the entire dungeon, expect to be here for around 2 to 4 hours, depending on your group. Otherwise, each wing can take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. Let's jump into our quests for the living section. Alliance have one quest, beginning from Arius within the dungeon. Arius gives us the quest Medallion of Faith, tasking us with collecting a medallion found here, guarded by Malor. Once you return to Arius, he will pass away, but this isn't where the questline ends. Hopping over to the Undead section, during the Baron Rivendare encounter, Arius' spirit will appear to help you during the encounter, only if you have the medallion. Once Rivendare is slain, Arius will give you one final quest, Arius' Reckoning, that you can just turn into him on the spot. The remainder of our quests for the living side are neutral. Let's start things off at Tirion Forgery. Tirion will offer us a fairly long but epic questline, so I'd recommend doing the entire thing. The first part of the chain is Redemption, which just requires you to listen to Tyrion's tale. The follow-up is Forgotten Memories, tasking us with collecting a toy hammer near Tyrion's false grave. Upon looting the hammer, you'll be attacked by 4 mobs, so be wary of this. Upon returning to Tyrion, he'll give us of Lost Honor, sending us to the other side of the Plaguelands to collect a banner from Northdale, found near Light's Hope Chapel. Head back to Tirion, who will now give us of Love and Family, which sends us off to the island that Scholomance is found on to look for a painting. Upon arriving, we can speak with artist Renfrey, who tells you that the real location of the painting is inside of Stratholme. The painting can be found inside the keep, found here. Once obtained, return to Tirion. I'd recommend finishing up the questline after this point, as it gives some pretty great rewards and has an awesome story. The remainder of our quests begin in Light's Hope Chapel. From Caretaker Alan, we can pick up the Restless Souls, which sends us northwest to meet up with a dwarf by the name of Egon. Egon will give us a follow-up with the same name, which just requires us to shoot Restless Souls inside the dungeon with his blaster. Once you shoot them, another set of souls will pop out. Make sure you blast them as well. Once complete, return to Egon. Next up, we have a fairly easy quest given to us by Smokey LaRue. Smokey will give us the Great Fras Siabi, which will send us into Stratholme. In the cul-de-sac to the left of the entrance, we can loot a tobacco box that will summon Fras Siabi. Kill him, collect his premium tobacco, and return to Smokey for a pretty cool trinket. Our final quest chain begins from Duke Nicholas Varenhoff. Nicholas will give us the Archivist, which sends us into the Scarlet Chapel inside of Stratholme to kill Archivist Galford and burn down his archives. Once we've completed this quest, return to the Duke. Later on, if we return to the living side and kill Balnazar, the final boss, we can pick up his head. The head only drops after you've completed the Archivist, and we'll just task you with returning the head to Duke Nicholas. Starting off our bosses, we can encounter one of 2 rares, Skull. Skull is a fairly weak and simple skeletal mage. He might be a tad difficult if you engage him with too many adds around, but otherwise he's not too special. His most common ability is Frostbolt, which just does minor frost damage and slows. He also uses Frost Shock, which is an instant cast Frostbolt. Lastly, he'll use Arcane Bolts, which will do moderate arcane damage. Past this, he's an easy fight, who drops some fairly decent items. Our next boss and second rare is Hearthsinger Forenstein. Forenstein is also quite weak. Again, beware of your surroundings. The Hearthsinger will use a multi-shot quite commonly that will do some ranged area of effect damage. Spread out and this ability will be stunted. His other ability is Enchanting Lullaby, which just puts a target to sleep for 8 seconds. This should be dispelled if possible. Otherwise, he's a tank and spank. Looping through the streets, we can encounter the Unforgiven, whose spawn is triggered after we run through the northeastern archway. This is an incredibly easy fight. Upon triggering him, he'll spawn a few adds with him, which can easily be area of affected down. Otherwise, his only ability is Frost Nova. There's an optional boss we can encounter. If you paid attention while clearing the streets, you would have noticed couriers walking around. If you killed and looted them, they'll have a mailbox key. In the locations shown on the map, we can use the keys to snoop through the mail. Upon opening our third mailbox, Postmaster Malone and his 3 guards will be summoned. Make sure the area is clear of any adds, as Malone will fear, which can send you into other packs. Malone will also stun for 2 seconds. Past this, he'll use Curse of Tongues and Curse of Weakness. Decurse these if deemed necessary. Overall, Malone isn't too difficult, but if he catches your group off guard, or you end up with another trash pack, he can be fatal. Next up we have Magistrate Bartholos found defending a burning chapel. Bartholos is fairly simple as long as you position accordingly. Bartholos's most threatening abilities are Mighty Blow, which will knock the tank back quite a distance, as such make sure there are no adds behind you, and Crowd Pummel, which does an area of effect interrupt. All casters should keep their distance to avoid the interrupt and the damage that comes from this. Bartholos will also enrage quite often as well as use Draining Blows, which will deal minor damage and give Bartholos some health back. He's fairly easy. If you're Alliance, you have a quest within the chapel. Otherwise, head back the way you came and hook a right. Once we've killed all of the Crusaders in front of the Bastion, our next boss, Timmy, will appear. Timmy is a lowly ghoul, and is about as strong as his stature makes him out to be. Another tank and spank, Timmy comes with 2 simple abilities, Enrage, which will increase his attack speed, and Ravenous Claws, which will do a burst of damage and heal Timmy. Mop him up and head into the Scarlet Chapel. To enter the Scarlet Bastion, we'll need the Scarlet Key, which is obtained in the Scarlet Monastery Library. If you don't have the key already, you can easily go and pick it up on any max-leveled character. In the chapel, you'll have the option to turn left or right. Left leads towards the final bosses. However, if you turn right and have a blacksmith, you can collect the smithing plans found here and can summon the Crimson Hammersmith. This fight is completely optional and only drops a portion of the Advanced Armor Smithing volume. Further down this hall, we can fight the optional boss, Cannon Master Willy. On his own, Willy's a simple, hunter-esque mob. He prefers to shoot his gun. As such, he'll often knock the tank away. Healers keep your distance as he'll also interrupt you. What makes Willy difficult is that he'll constantly summon his Scarlet Guards. These guards are all equipped with guns and can bunch up and overwhelm your party. You can easily defeat the guards utilizing Willy's cannon against them. Assign someone to stand near the cannons and mow down the guards as they flood into the room. Past this, Willy isn't too difficult, and he drops a very neat trinket that summons a tiny cannon to blast your enemies away. Back the way we came and across the hall, in his own little room, we can encounter Archivist Galford. Galford is a pretty tough fire mage and can easily overpower the group if the dice roll wrong. His primary ability is Pyroblast, which will deal a hefty burst of fire damage. The spell has a pretty long cast, so interrupt it. Galford will also use a Fire Nova, which will deal group-wide fire damage. If you can, pull him out of the room to minimize the damage this can do to your group. Galford's final and most harmful ability is Burning Winds, which will stun for 8 seconds and deal nearly 2,000 damage during that time. If this goes onto your healer, prepare to use cooldowns. If it goes onto your tank, be prepared for a large burst of damage on them, or for them to lose aggro. If you can navigate Burning Winds, then you'll have no troubles killing him. At last, in the final chamber, we can encounter Datherhan, the leader of this chapter of the Scarlet Crusade. Datherhan is a tank and spank and does pretty much nothing. At 50%, it's revealed that Datherhan has been dead for years, and Balnazar, thought to be slain by his own brother Varimathras, has been using his image as a ruse. Balnazar is quite tough and can end runs if your group does not focus. Let's go over the Dreadlord's overwhelming amount of crowd control first. His most dangerous ability is Mind Domination. This will mind control someone in your party. Immediately crowd control this target and be ready to use cooldowns if this happens to be your tank or healer. To add to this, he'll put a random target to sleep once in a while. Cleanse this quickly to keep your party in the battle. Lastly, he has a fear. Again, try to break this as it will knock a party member out of the fight for 8 seconds. If you let these stack up, your group is in for a beating. Balnazar will also inflict the tank with bursts of shadow damage with his Shadow Lash and Mind Blast. These are fairly unavoidable, so just keep those bursts in mind. Once you've mastered his crowd control, or are lucky enough to have a shaman with Tremor Totem, you'll be able to bring this powerful Dreadlord down, and can make your way over to the Undead section. Otherwise, that was it for the living section of Stratholme. As always, thank you for watching. The guide for the Undead section will be coming shortly, so stay tuned for that. And as always, don't forget to have a great day.